back, peeps, to the wonderful, glorious episode of The World of Ted, where we explore how single Latter-day Saints can learn, live, and love truly enjoyable dating. So I've got the second page from this discussion board that we were looking at in the last episode. So let me just start this up and we can dive right in here. Talking about this discussion post from MDDB, elder-ballard-on-singles. So we got Hamba Tuhan. I guess that's how you say it. I'm probably slaughtering it, but there it is. Responding to, I'm curious as to what changed among church members to move us to a point where half the adult members are single yet not pairing up. What is it we aren't seeing in each other any longer? And I talked about my impressions and answer to that question in the last episode. Let's see what Hamba Tuhan says. I and my two housemates, both adult converts, and my recently divorced former bishop all went to our stake single adult fast breaker this evening. We were the only men there. 3 women attended. One has children nearly as old as the younger of my two housemates and spoke up during my brief devotional to let us all know she doesn't need to forgive her ex-husband. Really? And that, in fact, she's relying on the Lord to punish him for her. Well, I'm sure you can rely on the Lord to punish him for whatever he needs to be punished for, but you don't need to forgive her? Sorry, honey, I'm not on that train with you. Her ex-husband, by the way, is a faithful and diligent member of our stake high council. One has been married and divorced 3 times. Husbands number 1 and number 3 both live in the stake and have been significantly wounded by their former marriages. No one seems to be too flash hot on volunteering to be husband number 4. Somehow I'm not surprised. Wow, that's shocking. I mean, you would think that somebody with this kind of account would just be a total gold find, but shocking how nobody wants to be husband number 4. The last one is a very pleasant woman, quite interesting to talk to, but who is inclined towards alternative medicine in a way that makes me nervous. What is it that I'm not seeing here? What is it that I'm not seeing here? I think you're not seeing the whole picture. When you're looking at, first of all, you've got the wrong idea about what singles activities should be. We look at singles groups so often as this is our ultimate and only true dating forum. The only place where we could really find somebody is at a church-sponsored singles event. And because we approach it with that attitude, we screw everything up. Seriously, everything just goes totally schizo backward, batnut crazy, because we approach this with the wrong assumption, the wrong attitude. We've got this up here that's all screwy. So when we, get your head screwed on straight and look at things in a more effective manner, things tend to work out a lot better. We got to quit looking at singles groups as dating forums. We got to stop looking at them as activity clubs, and we got to start looking at them as support networks. We come together to support one another and not to do any of this dating business. Okay? Now, if you find somebody at a singles event and it turns out that that's where you two, meet up and you want to take that to another level and actually progress with that person a little bit further on in your dating journey. Hey, nothing, I'm not dissing that, man. Have at it. More power to you. All I'm saying is that when you go to a singles activity with the expectation that this is the only place where you can find a viable partner, you're approaching this all wrong. You are approaching this all wrong. So what is it that I'm not seeing here? That's what you're not seeing here, right? You're not looking at this in the right way. Furthermore, the other thing that you're not seeing is the fact that there's a whole lot wider pool than what you see show up at a singles event, precisely because we've had this incorrect perception and attitude and perspective and thinking for so long So many people look at singles events as dating forums that they look around, they don't see anyone they want to date, and then they don't ever attend again. That's why your attendance is so piss poor, because you're not looking at this as a support network where people can feel loved, where people can feel wanted and needed. That's why you have the results commensurate with your actions. So if you want different results, you need to take different actions. And it all starts up here. You got to make changes up here first before you can start seeing changes out here. That's the way the universe is designed. So once you start aligning yourself with that, you'll find things go a lot smoother for you. So let's see. CV75 responding to, certainly not what I'm suggesting. I'm curious what has changed among church members to move us to a point where half the adult membership are single, yet not pairing up. What is it we aren't seeing in each other any longer? What is preventing these relationships from forming among faithful saints? What is making it so difficult that wasn't there 50 or 100 years ago, when the majority of adult members were apparently married? This report offers a few insights. A Pew Research report from 2014. This is probably going to say it's a numbers thing. I haven't looked at that, but it's probably going to say it's a numbers thing. This trend cuts across all major racial and ethnic groups. It seems the increasing rate of non-marriage relationships forming among the non-faithful and drawing the faithful into them would negatively affect the opportunities for the remaining faithful to form them with otherwise erstwhile faithful partners. Okay, that's an interesting hypothesis, but in order for that to actually play out and represent reality, you got to have some sort of evidence that says that the proportion that's doing what you suggest here is high enough to have the effect that you're purporting it's having. I mean, if we're talking 1%, ain't nothing. But if you're talking like 20%, okay, now we're talking. So what proportion is actually falling along in this? I'd be interested in seeing evidence that either supports or rejects that idea. Let's see. The dramatic rise in the share of never married adults and the emerging gender gap are related to a variety of factors. When I say non-marital relationship, I am referring to more than cohabitation, but to any alternative relationship one might form with vocation, money, avocation, hobby, addiction, etc. Elder Holland spoke of unprecedented prosperity and licensed freedom serving as unprecedented temptations for misuse. So, what are we? So you're saying here what? That we've got so much, we got so much prosperity that we just don't care anymore? Maybe. Okay, Scott Lloyd has a response to that. Another good reason for marrying within the faith and for being equally yoked. Mate selection is one area where discrimination is not just acceptable but called for. Amen! Amen, Brother Scott! I completely concur with this. I can't agree more with it. Yes, you want to marry within the faith, and you want to make sure that you're quote unquote equally yoked. Okay, you want to make sure you're looking for a partner who's more or less from similar expectations is what I would look at it as. Similar expectations of what life is going to be like. Or as we've said time and again on the Join the Journey radio program and also this program, The World of Ted, you want to focus on direction, not position. Find someone who's going in the same direction in life that you're going in. Find someone who's going to some place you want to go to. Because otherwise, you're just going to end up trying to go in different directions, and that's going to cause a tension in the relationship. Whereas if you're going in the same direction, it's much easier to move together to wherever it is you want to go. So absolutely, mate selection is one area where discrimination is not just acceptable but called for. Amen, Brother Scott. Chum has a few words. My uninformed guess is that we've shifted from a concentration of largely devout members to a much wider range of faith. That's interesting. Members are limiting themselves to those who align with their level of faith. Complicating this are those who are waxing and waning in their relationships with the church. I get why folks would want to limit themselves to those of similar level of faith. I wouldn't want to continually expose a happy devout member to my ongoing challenges. As an aside, another factor in play is that less active members are, well, less active. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, I'm right with you there, Chum. Although I would describe it in different language. We've shifted from a concentration of largely devout members to a much wider range of faith. I look at it through the prism of the natural man and woman versus the covenant man and woman. And, where you talk about a wider range of faith, I would talk about more acceptance of the natural mindset as opposed to the covenant mindset. Because the covenant mindset is going to value keeping sacred covenants above all else. And it was easier to do that 50, 60 years ago when society actually reinforced those values. Society itself valued keeping that marital covenant so that society would be perpetuated. Now society says, I don't care what you do. You go do your own thing. You live your truth. It's all this relativism. And so, gone are the days when you have that societal support. And so it makes it easier for those of us who should have that covenant mindset not to have that covenant mindset and to have more of the natural mindset. And the natural mindset cares only for the things of this world. So all the things that we naturally are enticed by, the results of evolutionary biology, those are things that pertain to this world and this mortal life. And that's why you see the trend happening. That's how I would describe it. But I think we're saying the same thing. It's just you're using different language. Looks like Chum deleted something. Let's see. JLH Profits back. What an interesting concept. Not just similar religious affiliation, but similar levels of testimony. And being equally yoked. Let's see. I recently finished reading the Polygamous Wives Writing Club. I'm struck by the way, in the 90% Utah community, so many chose to marry at the first available opportunity. And after short courtships, as if all the details we today spend months or years evaluating before marriage might be superfluous. Perhaps despite the 50% plus single rate, we are not socializing as exclusively with those of similar belief as before. That's an interesting idea. I have to think about that one. Then responding to, I and my two housemates recently divorced former bishop, all went to our stake single adult fast breaker. We're the only men there. 3 women attended. So despite the large number of single members, there are within your social circle a small number of appropriate partners. It matters not how many potential partners there are in the church if they aren't local. I disagree with that. I strongly disagree with that. One disadvantage of a worldwide church, a lower percent concentrated in an area. Yes, I disagree with that. I completely reject that idea. What you're looking at here is a manifestation of the natural man and the natural woman, the natural mindset. We all want this to show up in our backyard, so we don't have to change, so we don't have to do any extra work to get the blessings that we want. That's the natural mindset. And I'm here to tell you, there are plenty of people if you just look outside your backyard, but so many of us don't want to do that. And we confine ourselves, right? It's like it matters not how many potential partners there are in the church if they aren't local. Well, that's because you refuse to look for anything that isn't local. If you were to expand your vision and be more accepting of the fact that maybe you have to have a long-term relationship to get the blessings that you want, gee, what opportunities would that open up for you? And how would your percentage of probability of success, how would your probability of success increase if you were to open up more opportunities and options for you? Yeah, I just disagree with this idea that, if they aren't local, then it doesn't mean anything. CV75 is jumping in. Okay, so we're responding to, the whole. Okay, so here we say the same survey I posted above says dramatic rise in the share of never married adults and the emerging gender gap are related to a variety of factors. Elder Holland spoke of unprecedented prosperity and license freedom serving as unprecedented temptations for misuse. And the earlier post stopped there, but now it continues on, which I think contributes to a range of alternative relationships, factors one might form, vocation, money, avocation. Okay, so we actually did read this before. Human social relationships, such a level of interest in other pursuits would contribute to months or years of valuing marriage prospects or cause someone not as engrossed in other pursuits to seriously and carefully evaluate those with their social circle who are narrowing their options. I guess this is one route to the narrowing the options, but the key element here is we are narrowing our options. We put all these constrictions and constraints upon ourselves, and all that does is it lowers the probability of our success, lowers the likelihood that we're going to get what we actually want. Because, that's just math. The more possibilities you have, more opportunities you have for something that you want to occur, the more likely it is to occur. That's just math. So, if you want to increase your probability of success, the thing to do is increase your opportunity. And the best way to increase your opportunity is make changes in you by expanding your vision of what you're willing to accept. Now, it doesn't mean that you forget all sense of having any sorts of standards, but you really have to take a long, hard look and evaluate, is what I'm really looking for something that I absolutely have to have? Is it something that is a part of eternity that will actually make a difference in eternity? Whether if I do or don't have this thing that I say I have to have? Because let me tell you something, you have a deal breaker that's not based in eternity, it's based only in this world, you seriously need to reevaluate what you're looking at. Seriously. Hamba Tuhan comes back into the conversation. What interesting concept, not just similar religious affiliation, but similar levels of testimony. Responding to that, Hamba says, I've never actually put it into these words, but yes, exactly. I mentioned on this forum before the experience I had at a large YSA house gathering one Saturday while studying in the American Midwest. I walked into the kitchen at one point to get a drink, and most of the females were in there discussing how they had no intention of letting a bunch of old, out-of-touch white men, the prophets and apostles, dictate how they were going to live their lives. Needless to say, I walked straight back out again. See, this is the manifestation of the natural mindset and not the covenant mindset. Because the covenant mindset is going to want to follow the brethren. The natural mindset says, no, you don't tell me what to do. See, the natural mindset is not submissive. It's not humble. It's not willing to, submit to whatever her Heavenly Father wants for her. She's the exact opposite. Natural woman. A few years ago, I asked out a woman in our stake who had divorced some months prior. During the date, she told me to my face that I was too churchy for her to consider as a marriage partner. Message received loud and clear. Wow. Yeah. See, now we're starting to get into the anecdotal evidence for what I was saying before about this is why that we're not partnering up as much as we used to, because the natural mindset is coming in and influencing the decisions that we're making about dating. And if you want to get us back to where we really should be, then you've got to expose the natural mindset and advocate absolutely rejecting that mindset in lieu of the covenant mindset. We need to be covenant men and covenant women. Let's see. Responding to, I'm struck by the way in the 90% you talk to me, so many chose to marry at the first available opportunity, and after courtships, the details we spend today, valuing for marriage might be superfluous. Great. Looks like another story here. When I was living in the American Northeast, President Eyring was the visiting authority at our state conference. He specifically addressed the growing number of divorces in the church and then spent the rest of his talk explaining that one of the major factors was people rushing into marriage without knowing each other well enough to have established compatibility. He stated that President Kimball's comment on any two people was perhaps the most taken out of context of any quote that goes around the church. Woohoo! I cannot agree with that more. You go, President Eyring. That should be plastered on every singles forum and everywhere where singles can get information. That we need to bandy that around. That is so absolutely true. Designed as it was for already married couples experiencing troubles, it then encouraged us not to get into that kind of trouble in the first place. Exactly. This goes right along the line with, then Elder Oaks's, classic talk on divorce from, 2008, 2009, where he said, if you want to marry well, inquire well. The best way to avoid, divorce is not to get married to the type of person that you're going to end up divorcing. If you want to marry well, inquire well. Twice now, I've mentioned my former bishop who recently divorced. I've been his sounding board through all of this, and it's quite clear that his major mistake was rushing into marriage with someone whom he didn't really know. As a convert, he had been told that any two people who love the Lord could make marriage work. In theory, yes, but in practice, not so much. So post-mission, he just went looking for another active woman. Unfortunately, ended up with one who informed him during their first year of marriage that she didn't like him and wouldn't have married him if she'd known him better. That he faithfully slogged on through another 20 years of her ever-growing dislike is, in my opinion, to his credit. On this point, I'm reminded of an institute lesson with Kenneth Godfrey back when I was an undergraduate in America. He shared with us, from his PhD research, the minutes from a stake conference in or near Logan, Utah, that recorded the sermon given by a male member of the stake on the blessings of living plural marriage. Did I read that right? Yeah, I did. Then he shared with us the same member's journal entry that night, wherein he wrote about his despair and abject loneliness as a stranger, socially isolated in his own home. Okay, this is This is simply, talking about some individual who's unhappy with his marriage and is dreaming about some sort of rationalization to make himself feel better with his situation. That's exactly what this is. So, despite the large number of single members, there are within your social circle a small number of appropriate partners. Mate, if the number were anything larger than 0, I'd be married right now. I love Hamba Tuhan. I have no idea who Hamba Tuhan is, but I'm loving this character. Oh, here we go. The Nahor again. It's like you named yourself the Nahor. Okay. It's like, have you read the Book of Mormon? Do you know how, the prophet Mormon as this like historian scribe treats the Nahors? Not exactly positive. The odds are good, but the goods are odd. Yeah, I've heard that before. The odds are good, but the goods are odd. And every time I hear that, I'm just like, that just represents your limited vision of what you're seeing. You're not seeing, again, the whole picture. There's so much more out there. And the only way you're going to be able to see it all is if, first, you got to change this up here. Then second, you got to own your life, accept the responsibility for getting the results that you have in your life. And then you got to start making changes in how you approach dating. We talk about a lot of those changes here on this program on Join the Journey Radio. So if you're not listening, then that's that. It looks like, yep, that's the end of the blog post discussion forum. So we're there. We're here. That's it. That's it, folks. That's all we got. So again, this all goes back to what I was saying before with the natural mindset and the covenant mindset. And we need more of the covenant mindset. And if more of us would adopt the covenant mindset and start approaching this in a more practical, rational manner, we wouldn't have the problems that we have today. Dating could actually be enjoyable and fun, but you got to align yourself with the fundamental principles. And that's what we talk about here on this program. So hopefully something, I've been saying today and during the last episode has helped you. And if that's so, then I want you to pay it forward by helping someone else. Don't forget to, like this video, subscribe, all that good stuff. And, if you've got comments, leave them down below. Let's continue the discussion. I'm happy to do that. And, once you get all that done, then don't forget, come back next time for another wonderful episode of The World of Ted, where we explore how single Latter-day Saints can learn, live, and love truly enjoyable dating. See you next time.